Okay, so machine, Nemo's not here yet.
Okay, maybe attending, 有效什么学务朗读里面我的接近到人，也是这不对，是的，还是
我们先念释迦佛的心经和圣道三要。
可以稍微可以解释的
And they have books, right?
他愿
好，下个歌。来。
你某一个方面国际的我了解，那个就是这个了解。那人你能那边就会当时就发觉，现在某某人就是主动过，那个去工作的呢，要不这个意思。希望能让他做的这件事，我们希望瞬间来的那么多我们过了嘛，前边那个卡萨皮的。因为我们是以前那个那年前边嘛，这里做这有时候，因为一起做些个，一起做个准备不等的，一起做个准备的时候，一起做个热小的。因为老都搞多少了，然后就也是，然后人那边就话也，因为人那边就话也，就是我们做的就是这些事情，因为让我土龙跟跑的看到，我们有了天那边跑的看到，一直现在正下的天内。跑的看到自己那样，人那边就话也，就是我们做的就是这些事情，也是我们这边老师们专业做的。跑的看到他们结果呢，而且是真的教的。我这里讲不起来，他们这边讲多些，就等这边讲过你不这样做了呗，他们西边人接的。那到我们一般人没有做些，什么那么人就创造起，我们同学有这么问题，没了，没听到。上头那么早就是如果估计跑下两张去。如果估计跑下来，那他不是那边那么也好意思。如果他们就是主要那个他们一点去模拟过，特别节奏按那个样跑的，讲究一些，我听了呀，那没什么怎么能，那个我他如果估计跑下两张去。他们那边那么也好，现在讲究他们也好，也什么的，现在的些地方，第一个就等这边讲到，他给钱不是我掐的，我的，他那边嘛朋友会的，应该刚给钱不钱的，去先跟的也跟刚给，那就等这边讲到，现在也好现在的，那嘛是去联系这个嘛。那人话他骗不下的骗吧，而且一个人骗不进去哇，对呀。
So as we're receiving the teachings, it is important to cultivate appropriate motivations. Motivations must be cultivated in accordance with the refuge formula that we have recited earlier, such as object refuge, trivial, central, enlightenment, and so forth. So here now, the important part for us to understand, to remember, is to, when speaking about taking refuge in three jewels, one must take refuge in three jewels in terms of causal refuge, in terms of taking refuge in the object of causal refuge, and taking refuge in the resultant refuge. So here, how we, so in the beginning of our cultivating one's appropriate motivation to receive these teachings, as to take refuge in object of causal refuge, or to go for refuge in the causal object of refuge here. Here, as we decided in the refuge formula, I go for refuge until I'm enlightened, until I'm enlightened. So here, in this particular, verse emphasizes on how to take refuge in the causal object of refuge, which is someone who has already gained state of enlightenment, who have accomplished the cessation and the path that leads to the cessations, And someone who possesses those mental qualities, immaculate qualities such as path and cessations, someone who possesses path and cessation, who is taking refuge in the noble Sangha. So here in this particular context, we're taking refuge in the causal object of refuge. So then, when one takes the refuge in the resultant object of refuge, can be done in accordance with the Samaja Tantra in the generation stage, the beginning that we will see. It says, well, with a clear mind like a stainless mind, which is referring to the Buddha, which specifically referring to the Namna Udoji Namna, which means who accomplished the Vajra body, number Vajrana. And then the infinite method of holy compassion, referring to the mind that is possessed by the Buddha, and abiding in my mind, who accomplish. I always go for refuge to the Sukhatas. So here, it is such an immaculate, quality of the mind can be accomplished by oneself in the future. So you take refuge in the causal object of Buddha, which is the first line, the play of the mind like a stainless moon. That is to be accomplished by yourself, oneself in the future. And then the second is with the play of the mind like a stainless, then the infinite method of holy compassion that is to be accomplished by oneself in the future, abiding in the mind who accomplished. So here then, someone who possesses such a accomplished, one can be someone who can be accomplished such a mental quality in the future, such as the qualities of achievement of 32 deities of the Buddha Samajas and so forth. So then it says next, which definitely liberate from all conceptions. Again, you're referring to the cessation and the perfect foundation of all spiritual beings, referring to the path that leads to the cessation. I always then bringing understanding of the reality, the one test of all things. So this, again, you are taking refuge in the Dharma. Then I will go for refuge to the Holy Dharma. That is the quality of Dharma that is to be accomplished by oneself in the future. And then finally, it says, the final verse it says, perfectly liberated from all bondage. Perfectly liberated from all bondage, referring to the samsaric beings who are remaining under the power of karma and delusions and undergoing tremendous suffering. So you long to liberate all beings from bondage, and then possessing glorious realization through their supreme compassion, and thoroughly set on the grounds of the Vajra joys and so forth. And I'll go for refuge to the assembly of the holy noble accomplished ones. And this is you're taking refuge in the noble Sangha that is to be accomplished, the quality of the noble Sangha that is to be accomplished by oneself in the future. So in this way, you are taking refuge in the resultant object of refuge of Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, that the quality that is to be accomplished by oneself in the future. And then it says, and through the purification of thought and its fruitions, one then become once in order to accomplish those qualities of what we call the unity of the body and speech. In order to accomplish this, and perfectly eliminates the latencies of all obscurations in order to accomplish the unity of body and speech. And then one perfectly eliminates the latencies of obscurations, which is adorned with an extraordinary aspirations. May I generate the holy mind of enlightenment. So the last verse is generating bodhicitta. So then, if one cultivates such a motivation by taking refuge, causal object of refuge, and then the resultant object of refuge, and generation of bodhicitta will then become a meaningful of receiving a purpose. Once receiving of the teaching was purposeful, will be able to benefit oneself and others.
Yeah, and then I'm keeping deep into, and then Sunday to and the Sunday, drop from Baton, it driven never your Baton. Can you wish you have going? And then you jump to yeah, now you just somebody, much about it, and then transfer your sheep, said the Sunday to and the Sunday. 相当业务东西，每次接触的话，每个人真的是很主动的，你会去要的。但是你嘛做不了的啦，我就说没有多的，叫了这些呢，你他们你也去讲不起，就有很多的，我是拿的相当业务东西的，像就是公民都不东西，这我这里人都那样的基本是不有才要。
So here, when one understands the importance and the possibility of accomplishing those the qualities of the three jewels, and understanding that you have this potential or the power of accomplishing such qualities, with this understanding. When you take refuge in three jewels and the causal object of refuge, one will then able to take refuge in three jewels from the depth of one's heart. I take refuge in three jewels until I achieve such a quality, until I accomplish those three qualities of the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. So if you have this kind of understanding, and then you become mentally close towards three jewels. As you become mentally close to three jewels, and you're taking refuge in three jewels, become wholehearted, or you'll be able to take refuge in three jewels from the depth of one's heart.
Yeah, that anyone goes over share. ini kadang kadang rumbuci kasu caja ciambil sawa jeber siapa yang san domain sisiawa jusuosin tapi cium syukur tapi nani luni semua punya nanti suatu tentang luas sobat kaya ni nanti share sini 他长期节目之前呢，会是东门你东门往上面快点了解不了的，东年的过高不了的，要可门一点就加到身边，或者那个群生大了，他群你东门你多呀多大。
那是。
所以呢，当然改成长期节目娘当多波当，你改样了解。 And the Gala make the civil matter, and the Matsudo Jachin, Yana Machilo, and the Tudum G. Mano was Mansha to make one, and it makes Matwanda to show where to load it, and it makes it around the channel. So, in here, usually, I think that I'm not in anymore. Sure, to go. C'est yachabu sabu limbu 因为多客户，所以这个呀，那些我们家就那个用茶会茶的。现在等于那个朋友嘛，当然起码写呢，那这个用的上，这个刚才等于出来讲，他给钱的我觉得，那你感觉参加这个。去的，他要人去工作的嘛，然后这要会退了，去医院。第一个呢，当然是这些每年跟港北和大街的，或者怎么样的，这这用这个话，这肯定是个家乡的，那嘛，可是就这样的这么说，然后蛮多人那样。他给这个去年的那个参加全部那些的有了哇，
全部的就是了。
我听了有些我也是有的。第一对面的嘛，通话到前呢，结尾呢去年的社会的时候，当然就刚刚好多个人呢，那么那这个特别多的情况的话，就去上当了上面，那今天同学们学的上当一样。
So, having cultivated appropriate motivations by checking refuge and rituals and cultivating generation of bodhicitta, one is now receiving this teachings, what is known as Gandhin Chagi Chambu, which is the great Mahamudra of Gandhi, which the title of the text Gandhin Kaigi, which is also Chagi Chambu Salakeva Shivayan Sedame, and then for further elimination and extensive exposition of the root texts to the Mahamudra, the precious tradition of the sacred lineage of Gandhi. So this teaching has been requested by Seva, the director of the center, a couple of years ago, and then been able to, impart those teachings due to some reasons. But then now it's repeated request. So we are doing these teachings today. So he is hoping that by receiving such teachings of Gandhin Chagi Chambu, great Mahamudra, he can practice and realize emptiness. It is therefore he also changed his name, Losang Chri, which is the Losang Chri, is the sphere, suchness, referring to the emptiness. So with this request, so we're doing this teaching today, and so now to say, giving these teachings. So myself, I have not really, gained any realizations of such, realizations based on these teachings of Gandhin Chagi Chambu, and on top of that, because of my inner vision, it is not that clear. I'm not unable to see. It is hard time for me to actually read all the texts. When I read through the text, and then somehow, my other part of, other eyes cannot see clearly, so that to read the text. So this happened to me very often. And however, what I will try here is, I'll try my best to really and explain those words. This teaching, the teaching of the Mahamudra is so vast and profound, and very profound, vast, and then explicit. So it is even with one word, it requires a lot of explanations. So due to my, unclear vision about the visions, my poor eyesight. While I'm going through this explanation by reading the text, there might be there's a possibility that I may make some mistakes. But then, we'll all can work together and to see, and I'll do my best to, go through this little explanations as correct as possible. So the most important part here is now, I have this translation of Kanten Chagye Chembo as I received these teachings from His Holiness Dalai Lama while I was in Dharamsala a long time ago, and I received this. And this is one important part that one need to have this, transmission from a lineage gurus, which I have. So then with this, keeping this in my mind, I'll do my best and put in effort to explain as correct as possible.
Ya Tawatma Namo Mahamudra se Ranjum Sanye Kuji Hine Ene Mumik Zembe Kaiki Narupa Kaden Sunde Jetu Namaye Shaki Pemu Kurube Chansate Tusun Jawan Namji Tuji Loda Yete Jatu Nyambu Tun Jubi Wabu Kuji Shibi Shul Chaja Chin Cha Chin Cha Chin Yansel Trumi Shever Jas Tate Shever Tamja Techi Galayan Mamu said Chansavachi, Mars is Chimbuchi, Mudra is Chaya, and he Yas at the Pachi Chansava said, Natanima Ranju Yawi, getting this Yabu, shooting Makarichi Lojana, Shepherd Tamja.
So here now we'll begin with, let's start with the beginning of the text. The text opens with paying homage to the Mahamudra himself. It says Namo Mahamudra, right? And Namo is I prostrate or I pay homage. The Maha is a great, Mudra is seal or gestures. The seal here normally are referring to the seal. So then it follows with the paying homage, the composer paying homage to the Guru, the first verse, and the wisdom of all Buddhas of the merit words, displaying the static dance of the suffering monk, a most venerable Guru who is kind in three manners. I pay respectful homage at your lotus feet. So, in the homage verse, composer is making an homage to the Gurus. Next verse here is to making an encourage to compose the text. It's the distilled essence of the distilled essence of the heart of all conquerors of the three times. The essential point of portions of sutras and the set of tantras that trail through which all the realist masters have crossed. I shall present here the lamp re-illuminating the Mahamudra.
Yeah, that is ever tamjati in Kaju Komotini in my Sunday in March, like you did. And Tama Bandara, so the tea, so much of it, Sawati, Pedro Chijambi, so now. And the Layan, they were cutting which is for us, it's in it, in the Roman Shune, and the Shevatia, Shevatamja, there, Pedro Chijambi, Rade could go to Chim, so many sides. You just to the phone.
So, as we recited the two verse, paying homage, and the verse of paying homage and the verse of making a pledge to compose the text. Here now, this, of course, the teachings of the Mahamudra, the root of the teachings of the Mahamudra is actually, it can be traceable to the Buddha's teaching, the teachings of the Buddha himself, and this then be transmitted to his following, followers, the disciples, and so, and then this particular text, the root text itself, was actually composed by the Panchen Chögyam Gyatso, and having composed that root text, and there are disciples who make an fervent request to Panchen Rinpoche to write the commentaries on his root text. So this is the root, both root text and the commentary itself is actually written by Panchen Rinpoche himself.
Yeah, then there came out after the Kibu Tamanamji, Castle, Chade Chimbu, Namba, Cheba Cheva, Sum, Tomolan Jupe, Java, some Bitanju, some be number one Sheva, somebody told me you are watching such a thing. Namutega Dani. Namichoba dan Tumbaye, Tamba Sorji, Shire, Yul Chabajanga, Chansa was. I think you March, Kangulaya, and Tumba Tabja, Chin, and the Chansa was in Wheel. Kaisan around with some G treaty, Kanim Maju and you will Lama Tanjeri, the Najimbi. Sanjay and Sanjay from the Tanjaya, who should not die. And you Chavichaya Chancel. Chancel and it that Tumban Taishim be Javishes, Tumba Tamja, Jadikazena, Yakanji from the Formula, what General to the Osu, Tumba Tamasimichi. What did you want to when they Tumba Tamja watch it? Namjava Chiri Tomalas, Namo Mahamudra, Kunji Rajin Chaja Cheese, Kunji Rajin said, Kunji said, Chutamji, Konajugate said, Kunji Rajin Chiongi, Rajin Maduro. And it Chaja Cheese from you. That kind of charging me down. Rajin Matu, Chia. You may future, you may future things which in something. And it didn't combine it, don't drink it. And it whichever you know, 만지기 때문에 준비지. 만지기 때문에 준비지. 이게 어머니 또 있어. 이니 송주고 송주. 그러니까 생지 도지 인식을 해. 제목 돈제 겨다 준비지. 다음에 고만되지. 다음에 라면 샤우가 그리고 너희 마마 자소 쭈쭈 자소 쭈쭈네 아니 레버는 돈제 가지고 준조 담은 반자 야세지 가수 차자 친구 넘버 제스 제 시송 버티스 쇼로가니브 디돈 아니 또가 멤버십을 시벌을 맞출 수 없어. 어디 어디 고대부를 지어야 돼. 지어마 맞출 수 없어.
그렇죠.
맞을 말로 하면 멤버십.
그렇죠. So now here we begin with next. Says here to expound that instruction of the Mahamudra, which is a tradition of the learned and realized masters. There are three sections. The first, entering the activities of composition, presenting the actual instruction composed, dedicating the virtues derived from composing it. Then it says, the first, in order to demonstrate oneself as being in accord with the deeds of the sublime beings and so on, paying homage to the object of the special importance, and to ensure successful completion of the compositions, the place to author this work is presented. So these two are presented in the following. So now, most of the activities or most of the texts, when you look at the text will begin open with paying homage to the lineage gurus, and Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and then paying homage to the sublime objects of refuge, in other words. And this will then be followed by the verse of making pledge to compose the text. So this is pretty common to each and every treatise. You will find at the beginning of the treatise. So the reason for that is it is the main purpose of composing prior to actual compositions. The composers make pay homage to the lineage gurus, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and making a pledge to compose the text is to actually overcome the hindrances, the obstacles. It is because when one is engaging in such a virtuous activity of composing a treatise and text and so forth, the composer come across with certain obstacles which actually interrupts his or her continual compositions. So in order to overcome such obstacles, the composer is actually make such a to write this verse of making a pledge to compose the text to overcome these obstacles. So therefore, it's pretty common to see in the beginning of each and every text, most of the text. So then here, the next it says, again, pay homage to the Mahamudra. This is Namo Mahamudraya, which is the great seal, all-pervading, and the nature of all, indivisible from its ineffable expense of the Vajra mind. The most supreme among these realized ones who reveals this nature to you, fearless teacher, happy homage. I shall write here a Mahamudra according to the tradition of the supremely realized Dharmabhadra and his student, the upholder of the sacred lineage of Gandhi, who distilled the essence of the question of Sutra and Tantra instructions and transmit it exactly. So then here it says, the first, when it says the great soul of all pervading, the nature of all, referring to the nature of ultimate nature of reality of all phenomena. The indivisible form, it's infallible extent of the Vajra mind. Here, referring to, according to the Tantra, Aishava Tantra, here the extent of the Vajra mind, here referring to thinking the watching Vayashik, which means simultaneously arising great bliss. Great bliss, which understands the suchness or the emptiness of all phenomena. So then it says, since the composer says that since the meaning of these two stanzas, the above two stanzas is not difficult to comprehend, I shall not write the explanation in detail.
Yeah, I think 이번에 내가 교문 주순때 근데 땀에 담봉을 쉐바나 쉐반데라 숨 교와다 뭐다 주순데 아무데 담보때 다 대전라 주비보다 연시시에 같은 책상 마인비 kunjo yamru sanje nanten jas yamru sanje nanten jas samji chuni thwa ya tsosa juja la te yeja bom zam oja ne jasha mamuru muntate jasha kama muntate ene Yusum Sagi Tamjeta, Yeme, the Lamala, Yin, and the Yayan Jas. That is a teacher lesson on you. Among the table and you go Yamros in the Yamrocation with the Nanachi Chivata Namase. Ayochiatia, Yamdu nature. They do Namitamble and Jubala, Yamu Namdas, a cotton to them with me. Yamu Namdako, we do one showing way. And it all as in here, Tiwachimbi and Jubalaya, and the same jetty. Which go yours. You 가족 책상모임이 양로 생기 난된 자스 생기 주인 통화야 조사 유저 라트베스 생기 주인 상황은 아주 당대시에 대한 본인이 대 제도한 그 최탐지 같은 본인의 어떻게 많이 맞지요. 말아서 라디오를 예대비 생 사람이요. 이 나네 Shundu Chavi Mason teaching point, get over Goyo. Get over the top, and if we Sosa Dujan, not is Sosa was the Dujan when you got Dagayos. Sosa Dujan with the pay a Hochimana, element of the Razi, she cut them system Jimmy. around the same thing between it, or to be on. Tell the mom you're it, that's our cousin, she would come on this morning. And then the one has in the Lulaya, she put Yatam, which is my penny, and it always will be right. And when they put Yatam, in 10 penny, or idea, and the color which is here. Rangaji, and Malulata, to Wanji, Malan, Wanji to Tony, the daughter about to school, and then Yerum Ravan Tashian. And the Yerum Tamor, they were more immersion to the usual. And then we should tell new mason the one journey. Should need timber and then do we were. The interment there, Tosa de Yahuch, Majorina, and the current literary of my work with this was. So the just lot will be the young boom, some shamus. I'm the young book, I should start on it, Momuya, Sani, young boom, Saturday, Momuya, young boom, Saturday, Momuya. In another, she was the same way and surely. But in what we went and she would came out to her. I'm not going to you too, money, Johnny. Say the common doty, Kashila loan you wish to do, Kashila to your my Kashila, Chichi, my children. That is in the chief. Let me use over 18,000 new Jenny. Young better Jenny, no. In a young woman, Osha, Kamache, Cha, say, Cha, Yasha, Mum said to me, see, no, you jump to Soya. Charlie, Yasha, Kusha, Nika, I think, one to some children, from the Chap, chip to lawsuit. Genius of the region, social amazing. Dog money to attend the little my shadows, little my issue, shouting, what to get to do, that doesn't check away. And then to use some Sanji, and then Tom J. Town, you may to just Lamada, in from the Yaya Jazz, at the 100 teaching Gene. Children new to go, I mean, you say, it so the chicken when you were actually. I'm under the window in Samata, and there, Jeremy in Sama, to the only Sama, Virgin Sama, and this Sanji Tamji, Sama, Oma, this will be changed to get there. Most of the things outside. And that's our woman. Need to the king, Sarina. She don't know your mind. What is it? She is. And then when you move it, all it happened in the
So now the second part here is presenting the actual instructions reports, right? Says here for the actual presentation of the instructions by means of the preliminaries, the main and the conclusion. As for the preliminaries, it says the first is presented in the following lines, which is of this, since the first is a gateway to the Great Waco, and it's central as well. So not just through mouth and mere words, but with emphasis, secretary and generate the mind. So now this particular verse emphasizes on taking refuge in spirituals from the depth of one's heart, because the taking refuge in Jeju is the entrance or the gateway to becoming oneself as a Buddhist practitioners. In fact, the distinction between the Buddhist or the non-Buddhist is made on the basis of whether or not one have taken refuge in Jeju. So therefore, one must take refuge in Jeju, not mere words and mouth, but rather from the depth of one's heart. And then generate the bodhicitta, generate the mind. Here it's referring to generation of bodhicitta. And the next verse here it says, since seeing the mind's nature is dependent upon gathering accumulation and purifying defilements, and proceed first with 100,000 100-syllable mantra and many hundreds of the confession of the downfalls. So this, what it says here is now, here, since seeing the mind's nature is dependent upon the gathering, accumulation, and the purifying defilements. So here, the nature, we're not talking about the nature of phenomena, or all phenomena, or the emptiness of all phenomena. Here, this emptiness or the nature, or the lack of inherent nature, they're referring to the nature of one's subtlemost mind. In other words, the primordial existence, mind that is, nyuksan, which means extremely subtle most mind, or the primordially existent mind, that in lack of inherent nature of inherent existence of such a mind is said to be the nature of the true nature of the mind's true nature here referring to. So it's not for all emptiness of all other phenomena. So therefore, in order to realize, in order to understand such the mind's true nature, really depends upon the accumulation of merits and the purification of negativities. So it is by the support of accumulation merits and purification negativities, one will be able to realize the mind's true nature. So for that, there are many skillful means or the methods of the teachings are given to understand the emptiness, both in Sutra and Tantras. With regard to the Sutra, there are the hundreds of reasonings. We're given a logic reasonings of establishing the emptiness and so forth. So particularly now here, in accordance with the Tantra, the High Silver Tantra particularly, by receiving this 4 empowerments, having received the 4 empowerments, one engages in the practice of generation stage, and having completed and perfected the gross level of generation stage, and then that followed by the perfection of the subtle level of generation stage. One is then be able to engage in the practice of letting the wind enters into the central channel, enter, abiding, and observing. With this, one will then be able to, with this kind of practice, one will then be able to understand, one will then be able to ascertain that mind's true nature. So with this, to have such a realization of emptiness of one's own mind, or the true nature, the mind's true nature, it really requires a tremendous amount of practice of purifications and accumulations of miracles. Then the next stanza where we read here, then to your root guru who is inseparable from all the Buddhas of the three times. Make repeated supplications from the heart, not just from the mere words in the mouth, but from one's depth of one's heart. So here now, for the earlier translation, still the second stanza's translation. In order to realize such accumulation, in order to engage in the accumulation miracles, that there appear many of you have actually done the 100-syllable mantra recitations of 100,000 times. Many of you have done, and also refuge retreats that you have done, like recitation of the 100,000 times of the refuge and so forth. However, during that time, you may have not been able to really focus on your practice with the visualizations and single quantity. You may have it may have done with a combination of some wanderness. In other words, not being able to focus on what needs to be remembered and think at the time of one's recitation of those mantras and taking the refuge formulas and so on. So now you just try to think about now. So now from now on, I will do my best to engage in such a practice of reciting the 100-syllable mantra of 100,000 times, and engaging in the practice of contemplation practice of the downfalls and so forth from the depth of my heart, without any interruptions of conceptions. And I will do my best to do these practices. And there are many preliminary practices, such as taking prostrations. And in terms of prostration, there are also folding prostrations and half-link prostration, and also the offering water for offering 100,000 water for offerings, and so forth. And so when one is engaging in the practice of the prostrations, and one must do so in accordance with the King of Prayer, the sutra, which says one prostrate from the depth of one's heart, body, and mind, the body, speech, and mind. So by understanding those, by following such instructions, one must engage in the practice of prostrations. And then next, the third stanza is emphasized on the Guru Yoga, the practice of the Guru Yoga. Here, the practice of the Guru Yoga is said to be receiving the blessings, swift receiving the blessings of the entrance to the door of receiving the swift receiving of the of the blessings. One it should emphasize on how important it is for one to engage in the practice of Guru Yoga. So with this, previously all of us actually recited with regard to the Guru Yoga practice, we have done recitation of those mantra in conjunction with the practice of the Guru Yoga, the mantra of His Holiness and Vajradhara's mantra, and then also followed by the mantras of all the Buddhas and so forth. So we have done for this. Many of us actually have gone through those practices.
Yeah, that is the content in Masungwe. Robinchimbo, Shintiba, Lamaselimba, Chimbo, Nachi, so, Hoyuchi, Kedu, Mongu, Chinangi, Chabaya, Yamu, Gandaki, Gune, Cheja. Ketan Tumbara, Jitu Sabinji, Yamu Mena, Chiba Min, Jesum Batar, 정부 유통 하는 점이 유통 점이 난된 또 제국이 담배장 파탕마산지 담배장 논의 장순 온종순 계획 계획 슈기 좀 디리바 그런 게 보면 디리바 온종순 논의 장순 때문에 정부의 구체적이나 계획 슈로만 주는 거에서 디리바 송도 디리바 제송의 시장 대중경 공부 지원례장 장주 생기 주는 PGK 거의 동을 담배 양다는 이제는 스테이션 교재 이등 한국군이 사전 유시 제당 교체배장提前 교걸 준비에 문서를 원원 시제화 이다답이 장주생 가을 법이 예양무 시 교체물 요구다 대마세 남남고자 돼야 사회 다고 당신 집이 이기네 아마도 도전 탈도 당신 집이 이기와 이기네 이제 자원이 중국 이제 자원이 중국인 장유지 생기 유리 중국인 안에 터키 타르신과 인무 지혜송과 따라 디고신을 중시 인배 제나 아리트기 캐릭 소스 용공기 담바 함께되어 안에 sabjekti 안에 sabjekti 자원이 sabjekti 뭐래 뭐래 남바타 공명 문도 뭐래 문도 정도 생계 만들어야지 그거 지금 말에 남바 산지를 때문에 주고 있는 염두 지혜세요. 그거 지금 너무 주고 있는 근데 생계지 지혜세 정도 생계 지혜지 근데 만들 지혜지 소유 로봇 지혜고 만들어서 뜻이야. 요즘 뉴스 잡을 지혜고 도시 생비 공대 안 ene conscienza di anche io ti nada ene la vedo namla tiji tani dene charging 좀 매지ras 어때 양제도 tam 돌고 charging 본로 사단테다 이 본로 치킨 지에서 내가 좀 뭐요 말해서 야
Now here, I'll begin with the text. So, since numerous learned and realist masters of the land of noble ones, such as great masters, Shantipa, the teacher Serimpa, and the great Atisha, who is the sole Lord, draw the distinction between both Buddhists and non-Buddhists on the basis of whether or not one is perfect refuge. And consonant with this, the most venerable, Sakya Pandita states, if there is no going for refuge, one is not a Dhamma practitioner. So as stated here, it is essential to ensure that one's mental continuum is well integrated with the act of calling for refuge. And number 2 stated the following: and enters your all 3 lung, heart, and chest to the 3 doors. William Johnson. The blessings will flow naturally for people of the river. Likewise, the protector of Shantideva states, when awakening mind is here, it says, when awakening mind is generated at the very instant, even those desperate beings chained in the prison of sacred existence, they will be referred to as the children of Sugatas. They will be venerated by the entire world of humans and gods. And the great Adisha states, those wishing to enter the gateway of the great vehicle, it is worthwhile to strive even for eons to generate that which dispels the darkness of calms and the pains. The mind of awakening that resembles the sun in the moon. It is thus the gateway to enter the great vehicle. Furthermore, Verukodi Subodhi states, Vajrapani, the enlightened wisdom of omniscience, enlightened wisdom of omniscience emerges from the compassion as its root. Right? So here, the wisdom of omniscience is when we all are aspiring to attain. That is our objective. Core objective of engaging in the practice of the mind and Dharma, isn't it? So therefore, it says emerges from the compassion as its root, and it emerges from the awakening mind at its cause, and it is perfected through the skillful means. So, as stated here, given that it is the actual exile of the great vehicle, great vehicle in general, there is no difference amongst all the sublime personage of the lineages of the Pacific schools in this land of snow, when giving the profound guide or undertaking the meditative practice, to undertake going for refuge and generating mind, and offering mandala, vajrasattva meditation and meditations, or meditation and mantra repetitions, and the Guru Yoga. So those are known as the four preliminary practices. The preliminary practice of taking refuge that we talked earlier about taking refuge in 3 jewels. Jewel is the gateway to becoming oneself as a Buddhist practitioner, generating the mind that is entering into the Mahayana path, and to accumulate tremendous amount of merits by engaging in practice. The particular practice here refers to the offering of mandala, and then Vajrasattva practice in certain, in other commentaries, which will also emphasize not only the Vajrasattva practice, meditation and mantra repetition, but also says the confession practice, the confession downfall, confession on the downfalls, and so forth. And then followed by the Guru Yogas, which are given the level, the 4 guides as preliminaries.
Yeah. Tachavar Malamiki Tushi Cho, Najuki Onshu, Melaripa, and Melaripe, Tomar Chamninji, Chajuki Sem, Nenjo, Milenji, Chiva Mataba Onshi, and Dombara Zeti. Cheketu Mokom Jela Jinjine Meta Kore Nimikum Le Yunji Shela Nantenche Yakujo Sumla Lote Lobute Top Janju Simla Javis 法相即便有那么见，法相原本就是说有那么见，今天
那我知道，
那我今
知道有没多？
那我今天那也几门多，那我感谢我的，然后就把这个几门多做留属。大满说送了娘啊，没接到，给他每个连接呢，用这大把人，马上呢，马上我们没事别，他先参与那边了，把人，那江边新疆。江边新疆城市接我当时，由于就是马德兴是哪呢？看来
行吧，
我来就先不人，先不哪呢马罗的事，还是去了去民众的去回你们现在这咱们这个嘛。然后先把老的先个地先拿你老婆什么的，先把拿你马老的，或者中人没准备他们你们西边老公众引不着，便把菜子接到，这种时间他们现在。讲把真正没做到，一般面包人认为就是这些人在我全部一讲究生了，那点才是先说，老人们去到一个送书是的，咱们那一个地方送下我的第一次，好。
So now here we'll follow the text. So it's in particular the most ideal trainee of High Yoga Tantra, the most accomplished Yogi Milarepa, not only the first practice the trio of loving kindness, compassion, and awakening mind, true renunciation, karma and its effect, and death and impermanence, but impart their instructions to others as well. He states, terrified of eight aspects of the lack of leisure, I have meditated on impermanence. Impermanence and defects of samsara. I took seriously the karmic law of cause and effect. I entrusted myself in the refuge at Three Jewels. And since I trained my mind in the means of awakening mind, I've cut the continual stream of defilements of propensities. I recognize all that appears as illusions. So I have no anxiety now for the three lower realms. And if towards virtuous and non-virtuous acts, you fail to contemplate perfectly their cosmic. The suffering of lower realms is most unbearable. So even towards the minute aspect of their fruits, they pray to be held by heedfulness and mindfulness. And if you do not view sense object as flawed, and if you feel no revulsion from them, no revulsion for them from within, you will not be free from the prison of samsara. So with the mind recognizing everything as illusion, pray apply the antidotes against the origins of sufferings. Then again, towards all beings of six realms, if you do not repay their kindness, there's a danger of falling into a lesser vehicle. Therefore, with great force of compassion, pray, train in awakening mind. And he read such as this lines that are exactly similar to the stages of the path.
Yeah, that is the melody change, change, and change ki so kasha cho yammi ki sunje dabu muji ya ane dabu chuje chabaris lo chuzu doa chu lam tu noa lam lam chu no sewa chua 이히 기본 차와 시브 예제 가끔 로조신 인노세 딱 가끔 로조나라 근데 그게 생각되는 그 강 시야와티 추어진거라 말아서 마도 까비노 계속 숨지는 줄세요 소소 네 이담 거니 좀 땡겨요 our common shower is empty good shower. Dark current shower is empty yellow current shower is empty two. Then Nigeria young Kayana, the issue of the good to mention will choose to go what the day will say. Content something in the Latin took in some Javana. 공부상을 취업을 누구요? 내 나와요 봐봐. 내가 취업을 넣어. 취업하면 도 나는 나는 받지 못하는 거야. 그래서 봐 세지는 아무도 못. 남 취업세요. 야 남로네 남 취업을 되리라. 이내야 취업을 봤어요. 취업이 이게 Charwas. Create Junayona, the Yiki, the Javana, young Chivakuram by Shine, King Lam said, didn't know it, King Lam said. That is your John the Canadian, and Kadam Lojuna, Yoganaji, yes, one. Yeah, she bung on. Yeah.
So now here, Ken was read through the text here. In this elaboration of what are known as the four teachings of Thakur, which is Nyame Thakur, who is one of the hard disciples of Milarepa, ensuring that one's mind is turned to Dharma, ensuring that one's mind is turned into Dharma, ensuring that one's Dharma practice is successful, ensuring that one dispels illusions, and ensuring that the illusion found as a transcendent wisdom, the principal, successor of Milarepa, who was the founder of the tradition that fuses the two rivers of Kadamba, mind training, Kadamba existences, Chalya, which is Kadamba mind training, in other words. So, so Dr. Michitu explained this exactly in accordance with the mind trainings and teachings of the Kadamba. So then, here when it says, now let's go back to the text beginning. It says, in this elaboration, what are known as the four teachings of the Dhamma, ensuring that one's mind is turned to Dharma. So in this particular context, when speaking about ensuring one's mind is turned to Dharma, it's actually emphasized on taking the practice of Kesu Sun, which means that the taking three takings the practice of the three teachings, which means whatever that appears to oneself, the appearance of everything, all those appearances that appears to oneself are considered to be appearance of the Ida, meditation of deities. Whatever the sounding that you may hear are considering, imagining or considering as the deity's mantra, and whatever you think about is something that occurs in your mind are considered to be the mind of the Ida or meditation of deities and so forth. Those are the practice emphasized in this particular text when it says what are known as the turning, the one's mind is turned to the Dharma, right? So whatever that appears and whatever you remember or whatever you think of, is think about one's, the mind of one's guru and the Ida. So then with this kind of practice, even if you get angry, that anger maybe that anger may become a virtuous deed, but if one is not really gone through intense practices with such very subtle practice, it is not that easy to really convert all this calamities and adversities, transforming into the favorable conditions and so forth. It is not that easy. So here, this is how what is really emphasized on this particular text of transforming one's mind into Dharma, ensuring one's Dharma into practice successfully, ensuring the path dispels illusions. So then, even if there might some occurrence of some, you may have some kind of illusions, making sure that you are actually, because illusions can also be, considering into the transcendent wisdom. So those are the very subtle practices, but it actually requires practice or emphasis for someone who has reached the advanced stage of practice.
Yeah, that is concerned teaching of Catholic Be Kunja. Content settle Chimbachi. Nimikola Chawaja, Sanapola Kumukusa. Jade and the key, few good as of the Sajin to the Yavichi, Chimsa Yavichi. In the thing Masame to my Chawaja Tinchavajo. And then call a Shimado to watch it, and now in Shimalo, so what to be channel. And then up to Johnny, you are talking on the dead. And then Conjario. Conjario Congo, you already take on up, will go to Asia. Maybe you send it to now with Asia. No, one to better. Now, what do you have? Going in your mother, your much. Don't Napo Mambo Yeti, and then Kakan Namio. Bear Conjecture, and then Nila Chawaja, Senala Kumukusado. Chasing at the short Sumbanachi. Not a voyage, trouble changing the matter of my. That actual color of my destiny. Colors of men die. Shashina Kramate of my. I need to cut my stuff. Then you got all one jet. And then told them to be. Young some of the talk of Mamre on this. Tell you should keep me there was a year. Or the system they were telling you, which run to church of the Pentorcha, Ochocha. Look out moment. May she lie which pures and then the Kalaya was. They are on church material. Imagine, and then come with the man. 南京的满大人进全新组织也有项，也就是去全面去张家也会接，那马有些人上了当地，空弄的军学有，可以说那南京这里接没有对满大人接的，有些可以接东西的，你应该这个领导就会有的，我这个在领导会有的上第股东接的，因为看没到当家接也就会全新接下来。因为嘛，年今年他了，我来看年轻人，全中给人家做起来。因为我是那么想到自己能有时间，他这里也是没有空间，一点去有那个他了学中说的，他开始说这个真的现在，有些个出讲的呀，他来要出去学，他们呢，他了叔叔经常用的，他了叔叔今天的，我的空格。改的改进，去改进，对公共的我马上那个确实没有嘛，确实我公共能大是我应当，那你讲的是也只是我改进了一个，公共的大的那那确实有那个好不有呀。
So here, in this particular, section, it's actually emphasize on the importance of ensuring that you have the right kind of motivation for Dharma, so that one's mind can turn into Dharma. So here, when in this connection, we'll be sharing as a short, background of one of the great practitioner by the name of Geshe Benkwiji. Geshe Benkwiji was he led his life, his early part of his life as a lay person, and in fact he was a really a bad person. During the day, he act as a bandit, and then at night he become a theft. Just go to other, rob others, households and so forth. So although he had quite a good properties, including the lands that he can cultivate it and so on and so forth. Yet at the same time, he was not really satisfied by them. He was he became himself as a bandit and, robberies and so on and so forth. So then later, he quickly, become renounced. He renounced all those worldly, activities and become a good practitioner by engaging in by adopting a solitary retreat by himself, being in the cave. So the way of his practice was in the beginning, he collects the stones, black stones, and then the white stones. And as he able to do something virtuous activities, that he's able to cultivate a good mind and so forth. He counts. He always he used all the stones to count how much of the virtuous deed that he has done on that particular day. And then if he is engaging in such negative activities or negative minds and so forth, particularly the negative state of mind, then he counts the black stones. And then in the evening, at the end of the day, he will see that whether he has more white stones or whether he has more black stones. And so then, if he finds black stones, the more black stones and white stones, then he scolded himself by saying that, thinking that you have been a very bad person, being bandits, robbers, and so forth. And now you're practicing being yourself, distance, keeping a distance from other people and being yourself, adopting this, the isolations and being in the cave and engaging in the practice. But still then, your mind is not really, you're not really able to cultivate a virtuous state of mind. So it is as a result of your negative cultivation of negative motivations. You will not be eating tonight, and so he don't serve food for himself at that particular day. It is as a punishment of not being able to have that positive motivations. So then, if you find more white stone chips, then he would call himself. His actual name is Sutumgewa, Gishi Sutumgewa. So then he would praise himself as Gishi Sutumgewa. So today, you have done such a great deed by cultivating positive motivations and so forth. Therefore, I must serve you a good food today and so forth. So this is how he practiced in the beginning to really to train his mind. So and then here one day, for some reason, he really properly cleaned up all his altar, and he displayed certain offerings beautifully displayed, and then making in waterfall offerings and so on and so forth. And so then, suddenly he just was thinking, he thought of himself that why I'm really doing such things today which I normally don't do. So then he found that something wrong in his motivations, because on that particular day he was supposed to be visited by his benefactors. So then benefactors. So therefore he then found it is not a right way of cultivating such motivations to displaying such beautiful altars and offerings and so forth, thinking that the benefactor is coming today. So then he finds himself that he's completely generated a wrong motivations or wrong motivations. So therefore he then took a handful of ashes or the dust and dispersed on the beautifully displayed offerings on the altars. So and then when he did that, and then there were another practitioner who was said to be accomplished clairvoyance, and found that, and then he said that practitioner said today Geshe was able to disperse the dust and ashes on the mouth of the 8 worldly concerns. So therefore, in here, when it says ensuring that one's mind is turned to Dharma, is making sure that when you are engaging in any practice of the Dharma, making sure that you have generated the right kind of motivations. Because if you do not have the right motivations, then regardless of what kind of practice that you may undertake, your practice will not become a Dharma practice. That's important to ensure that you have cultivated the right kind of motivations right from the beginning of the practice.
Yeah, the teaching the Lojin Zimba Chimbo, Chao Jiangzen, Ji, Xinbo Xizhi Dus, and the Tenda Xiana and Chuba Min, Koala Xiana and Yumin. Dada Xiana, Jiangzen Min, Zimba Xiana, our means 신부시 제시 다티 신부시 wote manju pongoya manju de ba jegoya chi manju yuri mego ta 노쇼데 다티 예보티 만주 소소 자리체네 원래 내부 지역에 편성시고요. 다티 만주 니마 따버리션 노비지 말이 되나 지도와리는 때문에 지는 만주 소소히 지도고요. 대신에 그것들이 마진 전수 남저 배치수 강가 인지요에 기억해요에 이제는 만주들이 마 신부시 년부터 지금 잡아지는 송아지하고 신부시 년부터 제때 만주로의 추진제는 남만초에 신조한 것에 되는 말이에요. 맨 뭐지 제잖아 아니 그래서 이 말에 지금 돈초에나 너 때문에 는 요마트와 같은 돈한테 쟁거와 그래서 남만초한테 감가를 수치 점제네 근데 뭐 어떻게需要는 요구요야
So now here, so similarly, the Raja Order topic states the following in this freedom from foreclosing. This is one of the practice called the freedom from foreclosing. If one clings to the life, if one clings to this life, one is not a practitioner. If one clings to the freedom, it's not renunciation. If one clings to the self-interest, one is not a self-interest. If grasping arises, it is not a field. So this is what we call the freedom from foreclosing. So here now, those are the four thinkings that we need to abandon. Those are the four thinkings that we need to eliminate. And those are the four thinkings we need to treat them as our opposing factor that opposes our practices, our practice. So therefore, we need to eliminate those opposing factors by engaging so then these opposing factors can be eliminated by application of antidotes. So antidotes then needs to be familiarized with one's mind. So therefore, in order to generate such antidotes towards those foreclosing, I would like to you all to go through this, reviewing the stages of the path by the pension Rinpoche, which we normally recite during our talk. It is maybe not reciting every day, but we're doing ourselves once or twice at the center, and so this antidotes towards those four thinkings could be found in the reviewing the stages on the path by the pension Rinpoche. And I will just identify this right today, so that later on, since you have already been identified and instructed, so it will be easier for you to follow and practice and apply the antidotes towards the four thinkings. So we will go through this reviewing the stages on the path today.
Page 64, verse 94. Verse 84, page 64.
Yeah, this is number one. Yeah.
Page, verse 84.
84.
Verse.
请说当吧。
他新旧当过几种那么难，这就可以说在这句，也是在我们过去也是讲那么经典，然后写的，Mahamudra Teachings那们那个，你大体全的那么写这些他妈不就说的些，这些的，你可能这个，啥，现在我就是，啥的。예전처럼 보면 주의지는 lowest day. 같은 데를 지나 근데 주범을 위해서 때는 주범. 샌들을 시는 주범에 있을 샌들을 시는 주범에 있을 때 내지 당신에게 당신이 약간 이런 집에 초토화 좀에 책임시하게 매어 돈의 힘을 내고 진지로 어서 정말 뭐에 매진이 니네 꽃도 정말 짱도죠 대부분 그것도 다다 그거는 정말 relation 진지로 세트 샌들의 신비티 님부터 당주 동진 약간 지원하고 내 중진 거에 동학적인 쌈 야호지 쌈나 자체는 신자진의 총도 같이 제대로 하다가 같이 공도 쌈 어디 생들의 신비 님부터 듣고 그래서야.
So here, if you have a text with you, so we can go through the text. It says, through the power of having made offering and respectful request, to you, O holy and venerable Guru, supreme field of miracles, we seek your blessings for protectors and root of well-being and bliss. And so this particular stanza is one of the preliminary practice of Naminaju, which is the Guru Yoga, the practice of Guru Yoga. So then the next stanza is that we antidote towards the first clinging, the clinging of this life. One is not a practitioner, right? So to apply the antidote to this, the stanza, second stanza, is the practice of applying antidote towards the one is clinging for the life, one is not practicing if one is clinging. So then here it says, realizing how this body of liberties and endowments is found but once, is difficult to obtain and easily lost. And we seek your blessings to partake of its essence and make it worthwhile, and not be distracted by the meaningless efforts of life. Right? And then it's going to say that an akas that's sharing blades of the suffering in the lower realms, we took heartfelt refuge in the three jewels and the three precious gems, and seek your blessings that we may eagerly endeavor to practice the various means, and for abandoning what is bound to misfortune and accumulating the virtues of deeds. So in this two stanzas, it emphasizes on the contemplation on the impermanence and the impermanence and remembrance of the difficulty of accomplishing the rivers of leisure and endowments, and how rare it is, and so forth. And then also law of cause and effect, contemplating on the law of cause and effects, and so forth. So all this stanzas are actually emphasize on the practice of application of antidotes towards it, clinging onto this life.
다들 지진이부터 생들을 시면 주범 민생에 주범원에 있는 생긴 노진 뜻을 보고 올렸더니 또 고를 시면 민중 민생이 이 그림을 가지고 나서 정말 많이 민중 예단용무 방무 자도 그것이 민중에 가지고 담배지로 수도지문에 담배 출자기를 진지로 너가 쏟아내는 고원들 나의 사건을 통해 넣어가지고 아주 너를 너희 조선의 칼비지 않던 진지로 의세 고원을 시는 민주민세 뒤 이용보다 어떻게 보여래 이 지진이부터 고원을 시는 민주민세 고원을 시는 도와야 체도
So the antidote towards the next line, if one is clinging to 3 rounds. In other words, if one clings to the samsara, this is not renunciation, right? Antidote towards such clinging is begin from the next stanza where it says, the violently tossed amidst waves of the delusion and karma, plugged by hordes of watery denizens, the 3 kinds of sufferings. We seek your blessing to develop an intense longing to be free from this monstrous ocean of boundless and vicious existence. Having abandoned the mind that views the unbearable prison of cyclic existence as a pleasure growth, we seek your blessing to partake of the treasures of higher joy and to high trainings, and thereby to uphold liberation banner. So these 2 stanzas emphasize on the cultivation of application of the neckline. If one is clinging to the 3 samsara, this is not renunciation.
Yeah, that's the new regulation. Just means that the Yamutella and Manajego, one the good talking, I think it's always good. Do the politics, why you should be needed to continue. No matter how much I am going to get on the now there's a temporary machine, younger, how I do. Changing lows, that doesn't the channel, and the chance of means it. You chance of somebody change the window. And that's what the Congo is on the teaching you take it. Yeah.
So the next stanza here it's an antidote towards if grasping arises. If one is clinging to the self-interest, one is not avoid shadows. So then it says, if one longs to become a bodhisattva, then one must engage in such practice. So practice here emphasizing these 2 stanzas. So here it says, having considered how all these beautiful beings have been our models and have raised us in kindness again and again, we seek your blessing to develop unaffected compassion, like that of loving mother for her precious child. There is no difference between ourselves and others. None of us wish even the slightest of sufferings, nor is even content with the happiness we have. Realizing this, we seek your blessings that will enhance the bliss and joy of others.
Down symbol is our means at the Yambuti, and then running children in the own end. When you make it, you don't get it, and a consequence, dancing to engine to change hours. Start the Yambuti to soil word. So the running children in the own end, the Marasu. Children child and doing that cancer as well. Nothing to try to make it, and that's up to good on it. And you children on it. No matter if you do that. All the Mundu and person to carry no party. Children on it to see and children. Mundu to make it junto. Lelen their last, that television. Not Toba, never double to. All my young called me. Woman, John, never known what told to ways and she cars. Then they love. Called the Roger is called the dog when the coming to Korean some similar personal teaching called all the ones. Now, this no change much in jail. Indeed, I need to be drawn at the teacher mentions enough. And it doesn't. Don't show it. Dancing data, and it's in the journal, when you continue, 그런 것들이 니들이 쉽지 예. 새우고 또 내가 단도 버티게 코인에는 뭐 제한이 들어가는 한쪽은 코인이 때문에 더 담아지 코인이 때문에 너무 재미 이제 진짜 단지 진짜 뭐 괜찮냐 자체가 팬도 때문에 그냥 재미 이해했습니다. 더 담으려 코인이 뭐래 정말로 시험 따면서 따와지 가지고 와서 나한테고 이거였어. 야.
So then the next, if grasping arises, is not a view. So here for this, the grasping, the antidote towards this grasping is emphasized by the next standards, which is this chronic disease of cherishing ourselves, the chronic disease of cherishing ourselves, is the cause giving rise to our unsought suffering. Perceiving this, we seek your blessings to blame and begrudge and destroy the monstrous demon of selfishness. The mind that cherishes selfishness here in this one stanza. And this stanza is actually emphasize on how to, see that have the view that actually eliminates the grasping. So when grasping arises, if one is able to contemplate on such, then it will serve as antidote towards the grasping. So here, the chronic disease is like a cancer that it's almost like incurable diseases. So all those unsought sufferings are coming into being due to this chronic diseases, and then the chronic diseases too coming into being from the self-cherishing mind, or for cherishing of oneself, self-cherishing mind. So therefore, right from the beginning, let's say up until now, we have gone through a tremendous amount of suffering that we do not wish to experience, coming into being due to this self-grasping, self-cherishing mind, giving rise to this, chronic diseases, which then enables us to undergo tremendous amount of suffering. So now, what is important for us to do is, one must understand that how the self-grasping has been brought harm upon ourselves. In fact, harm upon ourselves from the beginningless time up until now. So therefore, you must look at this self-grasping as your innermost enemy. And there's no other enemy, worse enemy than the self-grasping mind. And all the sentient beings are, have been kind to myself. There's no way that I could consider even a single sentient beings as my enemy. So that I will, from now on, I will always generate great intensity of considering the mind of intensity of considering yourself, the self-grasping as my enemy at all times. So this is how you actually you cultivate in antidotes towards the last line. If grasping arises, it is not a view.
야, 다만 나중에 지금부터 때문에 또 그래요. 이제 그거 진입과 뒤에서 말이 돼서 지금 같은 문제를 그거 가지고 갑자기 또 많이 걸렸어. 지금 그거 진입과 뒤에서 말이 돼. 가신 통이 돼도 벌써. 저 가신 통하고 또 두고 해서는 예전적으로 좋았어. 다만 때리를 돌아서는 거 나비. 已经点的到的点的，那时候当天有我们学有怎样，我说这玩我，可是我们这个学我，因为当时，那就带你去做些用的，如果没把那，而且交钱多少，如果他一生这个有，就是他买了。如果店里到不动的话，店里情况就跟你下口的，可是我们就学一毛，这都当那么就，咱们那过几个月的，如果咱们一把的好口的，啊，如果那把没一个好口的，那咱们的做起，如果让你做起点的去，没把好口的。那如果咱们大量做有没事，这些有的。那么现在做啊嘛就做到嘛，咱们做点的，到了做了大有没事。我们那个嘛就也呢，到有很多事。那上了咱们嘛当前的像咱们我们的。也就是这样嘛，才会去这样。然后那些个在地拿说那些，基本上面去买，那个我们哪干的，那地方也不能那这些都搞死。常常买的就会真的，就我上去那么做，就是买上这个样的，如果啥也买，人就会去做的，啥买去买面买肉买。因为不跟南皮南开的，第二码的，南皮也码的，因为现在大这个是哪些买的这呢？这样要嘛，年的个嘛，因为现在这个搞死，然后呢，这个是那个电的面码的来说呢，马上个电的面码来说，电的面码的是，这个抗震这个现在。让他们也对写，看出不是女娃的结婚生的，名到了这来是，这些看到这讲女性让他们做面试，今天这个大赛人看出不这样，可能我们是这边的几个人什么，这样还是，我看到这材料人呢，或有种全部人是做的。那这是差异不一样，这个是那个那之前也有嘛是，就是曾经的今年的很多些的，或者如果讲把这样的让些没有那个偏出去了，现在得了让些没有是腾也到出去了嘛的，但是没有差路就是没有过路。然后说这一年半年样的，地区的去发个样，看到人家可能让些东北的那个。东北的没为那个东西多，你那还是跟你讲去见的，去网络现在也会有的。那当然，当然点出现的这，所有的真的新北市我的南地就是不过啊，这八国呀，马路啊前面的新北市为年末的大家给新疆他们就会出现这些那放下来。看这个一个，我第一题，当这样的采集的，我就觉得是这一门多一点参加的，因为但是的话，这里面是先把这个点的那后面的上，先叫他们在一会儿我们他们这样的样嘛，进的那上，
但是
呀。
So then, here, just as how this grasping itself giving rise to this chronic diseases, and which enables one to undergo sufferings and unsolved sufferings, and in the same manner, again, Papa stated in the praise to dependent horizons, where he said, whatever that is misfortunes, that's coming into being, the misfortune is coming into being, the root cause of the misfortunes coming into being is samaripa, which is ignorance. And so this kind of ignorance can be eliminated or can be dispelled by seeing things. By seeing things, you're referring to the seeing things as a dependently arising. So when we speak about depending arising, there are two kinds. The depending arising of cause and effect. The the result coming into being due to the cause, and cause exists. Cause give rise to the result. And so here, the dependent arising in terms of cause and effect. And there's another level of dependent arising, which is dependently designated, dependently things coming into being due to the depending upon other factors. So there are two kinds. One is depending upon other factors, one is depending upon causes and effects. So now we all, if you really think about it, so we all know this. We all know how to contemplate on that. But I doubt that we are really contemplating on that continuously and on a continual basis. So therefore, if you look at the 20 types of the wrong views, or the jita, which is the view of transitory collections, beginning from the form such as the ones that here that form aggregate is not being a self, and the self too is not a form, and the form, the self is designated, or self is identified only on the basis of dependent upon the form aggregates. It is mere dependently designated, not just the form itself. It's a self, and the self does not possess form, and self does not possess the form, and so on. And then similarly, you can shift this to the feelings. Feeling is not a self, and self is not a feeling, and so forth. And so in this way, you can take this idea to all five aggregates. So that's this complete the 20 transitory collection, the view of transitory collections. So if you do not contemplate and you do not meditate on it, so then there is no, that development will not, spiritual development will not take place. So you need to take your time and take an opportunity to really to concentrate upon that practice. And similarly, in the Nagarjuna's Madhyamaka Mulakarika, where he stated that the person is not a earth, nor water, fire, and so forth. And so if this is so, then how can we really identify the person? And then it says, yes, person is mere, dependent upon the collection of the six constituents. It is mere dependent upon the six constituents. And so when it says there's no such elements are not a person, and person not being elements, and so forth, that doesn't mean the non-existence of the persons. Persons do exist. The way in which it exists is very dependent upon its other factors. A mere collection of dependent upon the collection of six constituents and so forth. So therefore, then even if you go through even the six constituents, if you really analyze individually, even six constituents, it cannot be findable. It cannot be pinpointed. If you go through one by one, even down to the atoms, you will not be able to find as such. Will not be able to find even the slightest, intrinsic existence of six constituents and so forth. And this kind of understanding is similar to the scientists as well. Scientists would say if you go through all those forms and then go through the subtle level of forms such as magnitudes and particles and so on and so forth. Finally, you cannot pinpoint there's such things that really exist intrinsically, but then they have no, they will not find a final ultimate existence of that particular atoms, but they would just say it becomes unfindable. That is their final regulations, final establishment. However, for us, when it comes to the unfindability, the very unfindability of the intrinsic reality, and we find something else, what we find is we found the emptiness of intrinsic reality, emptiness of independent existence and so forth. So we have that can be found, which is the emptiness. Emptiness can be established as a result of not finding intrinsic reality. So therefore, if we go through this, reviewing the stages on the path, it's a really, really good to contemplate on the meanings and how it really emphasizes on applying attitudes towards each of those four clingings, the clinging of this life, clinging of secondary existence, clinging of self-interest, and clinging of view and so on and so forth. So arising the views and so on and so forth. So today we will stop here with this, and then from tomorrow onwards, at the preliminary recitation, we will recite this, reviewing the stages on the path. And so if we have time, so we can do it today, let's recite those, reviewing the stages on the path all together. And from tomorrow onwards, we will recite this.
Oh yeah, that can be, that's what.
That's all. That's all.
When you want to walk.
That's
That's saying that not even your. Oh yeah. Oh, that is you going to make sure to do it. It's silly, really.
That's all.
And then you know,
That's all.
maybe she will come up.
Verse 84.
Slowly, English, Chinese, just together or yeah. Yeah, together. Yeah, very much. Oh. What?
Just guess what you decide to eat a few verses. Just few verses and you decide.
이만 참으라 이제까지
From the chapter question.
91? 84.
이제 오늘 나이지 아게 원 Chinese no 99 No, no. Maybe Chinese I come. Okay. Name once, okay. Should 4 negative. They have 2 sentence, 2 sentence. Last one sentence. Now, one change, one change. No. Okay, let's do
Actually, consider what you mentioned here. It's clear, yeah. First, an antidote to attachment to this life. There's 2 verses. And then second, antidote to attachment to samsara. It starts from verse 85. Yeah? 85, from 85, realizing how his body of leverage and endowments is found but once it's difficult to obtain and it's easily lost. And when you seek your blessing to partake of its essence, make it worthwhile, then and not be distracted by the meaningless affairs of this life. Then second verse, 86. I guess at the searing blast of suffering in the lower realms, we take heartfelt refuge in three precious gems, and seek your blessings that we may eagerly endeavor to practice the various means. For abandonment what is brought to misfortune and accumulating virtues deeds. Yeah? These two verses are for the an antidote to attachment to this life. Then second, an antidote to attachment to samsara. Then violently tossed amidst waves of delusion and karma, flooded by hordes of watering denizens, the three kinds of suffering. We seek your blessing to develop an intense longing to be free from this monstrous ocean of boundless and vicious existence. This is verse 87, yeah? Then verse 88, having abandoned the mind that views this unbearable prison of separate existence as pleasure growth, we seek your blessing to partake of the treasure of ayas, jewels, and three higher training, and thereby to uphold liberation's banner. Yeah. Then these two verses are for an antidote to attachment to samsara. Then third, as an antidote to seeking peace and happiness for other, for oneself alone. Yeah. 89 verse start from verse 89. Having considered how all these beautiful beings have been our mothers and have raised us in kindness again and again, we seek your blessing to develop unaffected compassion like that of a loving mother for her precious child. Then 90 verse 90. There is no difference between ourselves and others. None of us wishes even the slightest of suffering, nor is even content with happiness we have. Realizing this, we seek your blessing that we may enhance the blessing and joy of others. And these two verses are for an antidote to seeking peace and happiness for oneself alone. Yeah? Then verse 91. This karmic disease of cherishing ourselves is the cause giving rise to our unsolved suffering. Yeah? Preserving this, we seek your blessing to blend, how to say, barrage, and destroy the monstrous demons of selfishness. This one verse is for an antidote to the self-grasping that is the root of samsara. Yeah, that's why Kyushu want to decide up to here, yeah?
Yeah,
Yeah, up to here. Yeah, for an antidote to the self-grasping that is the root of samsara, has only one verse. Yeah. Kyushu just want to decide and make sure.
Chinese English no right. Okay. No? Yes. English no right. Oh. For negatively and naturally have too heavy, too columns, many columns. And it not be a choice. Okay? Yeah. Maybe take dedication. Yeah.
We decide simultaneously. Challenge the restorer. Yeah, education.
Thank you. Thank you. Everybody tired? Everybody mind make it stop?
Yes.
Little bit. Right? Everybody could see me? Maybe you and everybody is who am I? Who am I? My body, I am all nothing. Why? No, right? No, yes. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye, good night.
Okay, thank you, Lee. One, the next session is identified here on 4:30, next session 4:30. You can keep this, but you have to limit that instead. You look at, for those who want to make donations to the copy, you can identify. Because you will say, wait,